Everyone, and welcome back.
Yeah.
We're getting close to the holidays, and I'm really excited to dive into something super important today.
Yeah.
Pet safety.
Yes.
We're going to be basing this whole deep dive on an article from the Blue Buffalo website.
Great source.
Yeah, they're pretty much the experts when it comes to our furry friends, so I'm feeling good about this.
Yeah.
And really, who doesn't want to keep their pets happy and healthy while we're, off celebrating, right?
Right.
But here's the thing. The article kind of blew my mind. There are so many, hidden dangers.
Oh, yeah.
In our holiday traditions, stuff we don't even think about.
It's true. We get so caught up in all the festivities and everything that we forget that our pets experience the holidays so differently than we do.
Yeah.
And what we see as, festive cheer can actually be really dangerous for them.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Okay, so that already has me kind of rethinking things. So let's start with, I guess, the most obvious one, food.
Yes.
The article talks about these food faux pas, and I'm guessing it's not just about, overfeeding them.
Right. It goes a little deeper than that. Dogs and cats, their systems, metabolize foods very differently than us.
Okay.
So something that's perfectly fine for us to eat can be really toxic to them.
Really?
Yeah, like avocados, for example.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. We love guacamole, right?
Sure.
But for dogs, especially certain varieties like the Guatemalan avocado,
Right.
it contains a compound called persin, and it can be really harmful to them.
The Guatemalan avocado. Wow. Okay, see, this is the kind of detail I would never, ever know. So what other foods should we be, on the lookout for?
Well, grapes and raisins are a big one that kind of surprises people.
Really?
Yeah.
They seem harmless enough.
Right, you would think.
Yeah.
But they can actually cause kidney failure in both dogs and cats.
Wow.
And then there's bones.
Oh, yeah, we give our dog bones all the time.
Well, you have to be careful because especially cooked bones, like poultry bones, can splinter and cause a lot of damage in their digestive tract.
That makes sense. Bones always seem like a natural thing for dogs. I guess not all bones are created equal.
Exactly.
And speaking of things we think are natural, the article also talks about moldy food. It's the holidays, things get kind of shoved to the back of the fridge.
Exactly. It's so easy to overlook that.
Yeah.
Like an old piece of bread or fruit.
Right.
But mold can contain toxins called mycotoxins. Oh. And it can cause tremors, seizures, all sorts of neurological problems.
Okay. You're really making me rethink, what I'm leaving out on the counter.
Yeah.
But it's not just about what we do right. We need to make sure our guests know the rules, too.
Right. Communication is key.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people who might not be as familiar with pets might not think twice about sharing some holiday treats.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've covered the obvious, food dangers lurking right there on the table.
Yeah.
But the article also mentions something called silent but deadly threats.
Uh-huh.
What are those all about?
Well, that's where we get into, the hidden dangers. The things that we might not think are an issue.
Okay.
So a big one is xylitol.
Xylitol.
Yeah, it's an artificial sweetener.
Right.
It's found in a lot of sugar-free goodies.
Oh, like gum and candy and stuff like that.
Exactly. But it is super dangerous for dogs.
Okay.
Because it triggers this massive release of insulin.
Wow.
And it can cause their blood sugar to plummet really quickly.
Xylitol. I've seen that on ingredient lists.
Yeah.
But I never really knew it was so dangerous.
Yeah.
I'm learning so much already from this deep dive.
It's all about being aware.
Okay, so let's say, despite our best efforts, our pet does manage to get into something they shouldn't.
Mm-hmm.
What should we be looking for? What are the signs that something's wrong?
You have to know those warning signs. So if your pet suddenly starts vomiting,
okay,
or loses their appetite, or is really lethargic, like they don't have any energy, or if there are changes in their bathroom habits.
Oh, okay.
Those are all red flags.
Got it.
That means they could be showing signs of poisoning.
Oh, no.
You have to act fast.
Okay, so those are the key things to watch for. But what do we do if we see those signs?
You call your vet right away.
Immediately.
Yeah. Time is of the essence in those situations.
Okay, that makes sense. And I know there are some hotlines for pet poisoning too, right?
Absolutely.
For those moments when you're panicking and don't know what to do.
Yeah, the Pet Poison Helpline and the ASPCA Animal Poison Control Center.
Okay.
Those are great resources.
That's good.
They have experts available 24/7.
Wow.
They can guide you through the situation.
I am adding those to my contacts right now. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground on food, which makes sense. It's a big part of the holidays.
Yeah.
But the article also mentions that holiday decorations can be dangerous too.
Oh.
I mean, I know my cat loves batting at shiny ornaments, but What else should we be on the lookout for?
You're right about that. Those sparkly decorations can be really tempting,
Oh,
but they can also be really dangerous.
okay.
I mean, think about it. A cat batting at a glass ornament, a dog chewing on some ribbon.
It's a recipe for disaster. Yeah, and it's not just about choking hazards either, like that ribbon, for example.
Right.
It seems harmless enough, but if they swallow it, it can actually get tangled up in their intestines.
Oh, wow.
Cause a blockage.
Really?
Which can be life-threatening.
Wow, I never would have thought of that.
Yeah.
Ribbon always seems so innocent, just part of the pretty packaging. So besides the obvious, breakable stuff or choking hazards, what specific decorations should we be extra careful about?
Well, one of the biggest culprits is actually mistletoe.
Mistletoe? Really?
Yeah, we hang it up for holiday kisses, but for pets, it's super toxic.
What?
Yeah, it can cause gastrointestinal upset breathing problems, even low blood pressure.
Seriously, mistletoe. I always thought it was just for awkward, holiday smooches under the doorway. See, this is why I love these deep dives.
Yeah.
You uncover the hidden dangers in everyday things.
Well, those beautiful poinsettias, too, that we like to put around.
Yeah, that's so pretty.
They can be a problem, too.
Okay.
They're not as toxic as mistletoe, but they do contain a sap that can irritate their skin and their stomach, lead to vomiting and diarrhea.
Okay, so mistletoe is a definite no-go. Poinsettias, maybe, depending on your pet's personality. What about tinsel? It's so sparkly and tempting, especially for cats.
Yeah, tinsel is a major hazard.
Is it?
It's so light and shimmery that it's like almost irresistible.
Yeah, they love that stuff.
But if they ingest it, it can wreak havoc on their digestive system.
Okay.
It's like this long, stringy mess that can get all bunched up and obstruct their intestines.
So tinsel's off the list, too.
Yeah.
I'm sensing a theme here, sparkly and dangerous.
Yeah, pretty much.
What about pine needles? From our Christmas trees, are those a problem, too?
They can be. Pine needles might seem harmless, but those sharp little things can irritate their mouth and their stomach if they swallow them. And the oils from pine trees can also be irritating to their skin.
Okay, so it sounds like we need to approach decorating for the holidays with like a whole new mindset when we have pets. It's like pet proofing, but for holiday cheer.
You said it perfectly. It's about creating a festive environment that's safe and enjoyable for everybody. And it's not just about what we put up, it's also about what we leave out.
That's a good point. So let's kind of shift gears a little bit and talk about what we can do to create a truly pet-friendly holiday environment. The article mentions having safe, pet-specific treats on hand.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Absolutely. So one of the best ways to prevent them from getting into trouble with our food is to have a stash of their favorite treats ready.
Oh, that's a good idea.
So when they're giving you those puppy dog eyes at the dinner table, you can redirect their attention.
That's such a smart idea. It's like having a distraction plan for those moments of temptation.
Yeah.
So what else can we do to make our homes more pet-friendly during the holidays?
Well, sometimes the simplest things are the most effective, like just getting down on their level and seeing the world from their perspective.
Oh, interesting.
Crawl around on the floor, explore your house through their eyes. You'd be amazed at what you might find. A loose electrical cord, a dangling ornament, something under the sink.
Wow. I'm going to do that tonight.
Yeah.
I bet I'll be surprised at what I find. It's amazing how we can overlook things just because we're used to seeing the world from our own height.
It's true.
That's such a simple but brilliant tip.
It's all about shifting our perspective.
Yeah.
And it's an ongoing process as our pets grow, our homes change, so do the potential hazards.
That's true.
So those regular checks and adjustments are key.
Wow. You've given us so much to think about today.
Mm.
I feel like I'm looking at the holidays with like a whole new set of eyes.
Good.
Before we move on to part 3, is there anything else our listeners should keep in mind when it comes to keeping their pets safe during the holidays?
Yeah. One thing that's often overlooked is that our pets thrive on routine.
Right.
And the holidays can really disrupt that.
Mm-hmm.
All the excitement, guests coming and going, changes to their environment.
Yeah.
That can cause stress and anxiety.
That's so true. My dog gets super anxious when we have people over. He starts barking and hiding. So what can we do to help our pets kind of cope with all that added stress?
Well, I think the key is to try to maintain as much of their routine as possible.
Right.
Stick to their regular feeding schedule, walking schedule.
Got it.
And provide them with a safe and quiet space where they can retreat if they feel overwhelmed.
Okay.
You can also use calming aids like pheromone diffusers or calming treats.
It's amazing how much there is to learn about keeping our pets safe during the holidays. I feel like I've been looking at everything so differently.
Yeah, it's easy to focus on the obvious, but those hidden hazards are the things that can really catch you off guard.
Yeah, and what's really fascinating to me is how much of it is just understanding our pet's perspective.
Right.
They experience the world so differently from us. And what seems totally normal to us can be really stressful or even dangerous for them.
Absolutely. If you really tune into their senses, their curiosity, their vulnerabilities,
Yeah.
you can create a much safer and happier holiday for them.
You mentioned earlier that maintaining their routine as much as possible is key to managing that holiday stress.
Mhm.
Are there any other specific things that we can do to help them stay calm?
One thing that people don't always think about is giving them a safe haven,
Okay.
like a quiet space where they can retreat from all the craziness. It could be their crate, a cozy bed in a quiet room, even just a corner
Right.
that they know they can go to when they just need a break.
That's a really good point. It's like giving them an escape route when things get overwhelming.
Exactly.
And even we humans need a break from the holiday chaos sometimes.
And remember, our pets pick up on our energy.
Oh, that's true.
So if we're stressed, they're going to feel it too.
So true. A calm owner equals a calm pet.
Exactly.
It's all connected. So I'm curious, from all the information we've talked about today, what would you say is the most important takeaway for pet owners?
I would say the most important thing is just to be mindful. Pay attention to your pet's behavior. Be aware of your environment and don't be afraid to ask for help.
Yeah.
Whether it's your vet, the pet poison helpline, or a trusted pet sitter, there are resources out there to help you keep your furry friend safe and happy all season long.
That's a great reminder. We're not alone in this whole pet parent thing, and there's no shame in asking for help when we need it. I think that's a perfect note to end on.
I agree.
Huge thank you to our expert for sharing all of this incredible advice and tips today. I feel so much more prepared to tackle the holidays now.
My pleasure.
And to all our listeners, we wish you and your furry friends a happy, safe, and wonderful holiday season.
Happy holidays.
That's a wrap on this episode of The Deep Dive. We'll be back soon with more fascinating topics to explore. Until then, stay curious, stay informed, and cherish those furry friends who make our lives so much richer. So, today we're going to do a deep dive on sensitive stomachs in cats.
Ooh, fun.
Yeah, should be interesting.
Yeah.
So we're going to be focusing on information from the Blue Buffalo website, specifically their article, Does Your Cat Have a Sensitive Stomach?
Okay.
And, as cat owners, we all know that feeling, when your feline friend isn't feeling their best.
Yeah.
And, we're going to try to really understand what are some of the causes of those tummy troubles.
Yeah.
And some of the things that can cause sensitive stomachs in cats
Oh, yeah.
are pretty surprising.
I bet.
I mean, if you ever found what you thought was a dead mouse that your cat coughed up,
Oh.
turns out that's probably just a hairball.
Oh, wow.
We'll get into that later.
Yeah.
And then there's the whole thing about cats eating things that are definitely not food.
Right.
Plus, just like us, cats can have food allergies,
Yeah.
which can really mess with their digestion.
For sure.
So to help us unpack all of this, I've got our expert here who can break down all that science behind sensitive stomachs and give us some actionable advice.
I'm ready to get into the nitty-gritty of feline digestion.
Okay, so the article starts by listing a bunch of potential culprits behind sensitive stomachs. It mentions things like eating inappropriate items, hairballs,
Yeah, those are the big ones.
dehydration.
Yeah.
Those are probably the ones that come to mind first.
Right.
But then it goes on to list things like parasites, food allergies, inflammatory bowel disease, and even cancer.
Oh, wow.
That's a pretty wide range of possibility.
It really is. And it highlights how important it is to pay close attention to your cat's, their eating habits,
Yeah.
their bathroom routines. Any noticeable changes could be a sign of a digestive issue.
Okay.
What's fascinating is that while we tend to focus on what's going into the cat,
Right.
the real key is understanding what's happening inside.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more about what's going on inside.
So imagine a cat's digestive system as a delicate ecosystem. It's not just about, the physical process of breaking down food.
Right.
We're talking about a complex interplay of enzymes,
Oh, wow.
bacteria, the lining of the digestive tract itself. When something disrupts this balance, that's when you start seeing symptoms of a sensitive stomach.
So it's not just about what they eat, but how their body is processing it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's why it can be so tricky to pinpoint the exact cause of a sensitive stomach.
That makes total sense. All right, let's get back to the list of potential culprits. The article mentions cats eating things they shouldn't.
Mm-hmm.
And even has this funny anecdote about a cat who mistook a fuzzy toy for a snack.
Oh, no.
I've definitely seen my cat bat around toys, but actually trying to eat them.
Right.
What's up with that?
Well, cats are naturally curious creatures. Sometimes that curiosity leads them to put things in their mouths that don't belong there. It could be as simple as them exploring their environment with their senses, or there could be an underlying reason. For instance, if a cat's diet is lacking certain nutrients, they might try to find them elsewhere, even in non-food items.
Wow.
Or it could be a sign of a behavioral issue like anxiety or boredom.
So even something as seemingly simple as a cat eating a toy could have a deeper meaning.
Exactly. And that's why it's so important to observe your cat's behavior and consider all the possible factors.
Okay, so if we see our cat munching on something that's not food, what should we do?
If you think your cat has eaten something potentially dangerous,
Okay.
contact your vet immediately. Don't wait to see if it passes. It's always better to err on the side of caution.
Good advice.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about something else that cats sometimes eat that's definitely not food.
Okay.
Hairballs.
Yeah.
The article mentions that they can actually look like dead mice.
It's true. Hairballs are a common issue, especially for cats that groom themselves frequently.
Mm-hmm.
All that licking can lead to a buildup of hair in their stomachs.
So why do they cough them up?
Well, their digestive system can't break down hair,
Right.
so it forms a clump in the stomach. Most of the time, they'll simply cough it up, and it's no big deal.
Right.
But if your cat is having frequent hairballs,
Okay.
it could be a sign that something else is going on.
What kind of something else?
It could be a sign that they're not digesting their food properly,
Oh.
or it could indicate an underlying health issue. Regular brushing can help prevent hairballs.
Okay.
And there are also special diets and supplements that can help minimize hairball formation.
So those hairballs might be a sign we need to take a closer look at our cat's overall digestive health.
Precisely. They can be a valuable clue, just like any other change in your cat's behavior or routines.
Great point. Okay, so we've covered a couple of the more, shall we say, interesting causes of sensitive stomachs.
Right.
But the article also delves into some more serious concerns.
Yeah.
And I think it's important we talk about those too. Dehydration, for instance, seems like it could be a major issue, especially because the article mentions it can lead to constipation.
Dehydration is definitely something to watch out for, especially for cats with sensitive stomachs.
What makes dehydration so problematic for digestion?
Well, water plays a crucial role in the entire digestive process. It helps soften food, making it easier to pass through the digestive tract. When a cat is dehydrated, everything slows down, which can lead to constipation and other issues.
Okay, that makes sense. So how can we make sure our cats are staying hydrated?
First and foremost, always ensure they have access to fresh, clean water.
Of course.
But some cats are just picky drinkers. You might need to get creative.
Okay.
Some cats prefer running water, so a cat fountain might entice them to drink more.
Oh, interesting.
You could also try adding a little low-sodium broth to their water to make it more appealing.
Those are great tips. Now let's talk about parasites.
Oh.
I know they're pretty common, but the article mentions that even indoor cats can get them.
Yeah.
How is that possible?
It's true. Parasites are more common than many people realize. While outdoor cats might pick them up from prey or contaminated soil,
Right.
even indoor cats aren't completely immune.
Okay.
We can unknowingly bring in parasite eggs on our shoes or clothing,
Oh.
and fleas can also carry parasites.
Right.
And unfortunately, even a small number of parasites can cause significant digestive upset.
So what should we be looking for?
Yeah.
What are the signs of a parasite problem?
Different types of parasites can cause a variety of problems, including vomiting, diarrhea, weight loss,
Mm-hmm.
and even a change in appetite.
Okay.
Sometimes you might even see worms in their stool.
Good.
But often the signs are more subtle.
That's why regular vet checkups and preventative medication are so important, right?
Absolutely. Your vet can check your cat's stool for signs of parasites and recommend the appropriate preventative measures. Prevention is key when it comes to parasites.
Okay. So we've covered dehydration and parasites.
Mm-hmm.
The article also brings up two conditions that sound like they could be a little trickier to diagnose: inflammatory bowel disease, or IBD, and food allergies.
Yeah.
It says that the symptoms for both can be similar, which makes me wonder, how do vets tell the difference?
You've hit on a really important point. Diagnosing GI problems in cats can be challenging because the symptoms often overlap. Both IBD and food allergies can cause vomiting, diarrhea, weight loss, and a decreased appetite.
So how do they figure out what's going on?
It often takes a bit of detective work. A thorough veterinary exam is essential. Your vet will likely want to run some tests, including blood work, fecal exams, and possibly even imaging like an X-ray or ultrasound. In some cases, they might even recommend a biopsy to examine the lining of the digestive tract.
Wow, it sounds like diagnosing these conditions can be quite involved.
It can be, but it's essential to get an accurate diagnosis so you can provide your cat with the right treatment.
Speaking of treatment, the article mentions something called an elimination diet as a way to figure out what a cat might be allergic to.
Yes.
Could you explain how that works?
Sure. An elimination diet is a bit like a process of elimination, as the name suggests.
Okay.
You essentially switch your cat to a diet that contains a limited number of ingredients, ideally ones they haven't been exposed to before. Then you gradually reintroduce other foods one at a time.
Okay.
Carefully monitoring your cat for any signs of an allergic reaction. This can help pinpoint the specific ingredient that's causing the problem.
So it's like a food detective game.
Exactly. It takes patience and careful observation, but it can be very effective in identifying food allergies.
Now, there's one more topic the article touches on that I think we need to address, even though it's a difficult one, and that's cancer.
It's definitely a sensitive subject, but it's important to be aware of the possibility.
The article mentions that cats diagnosed with a GI disease might be more susceptible to certain types of cancer, like lymphoma. Is there any truth to that?
There is some evidence to suggest that certain GI diseases can increase a cat's risk of developing certain cancers. However, it's important to remember that not every cat with digestive issues will have cancer. It's simply something that your vet might consider, especially if other causes have been ruled out.
So what are the signs we should be looking for?
Cancer can cause a variety of symptoms, including weight loss, vomiting, diarrhea, and changes in appetite. It's important to note that these symptoms can also be caused by other conditions. So it's crucial to consult with your veterinarian if you notice any of these signs.
And if it does turn out to be cancer, what are the treatment options?
The treatment will depend on the type and stage of cancer, as well as your cat's overall health. Options might include surgery, chemotherapy, radiation therapy, or even palliative care to manage symptoms and improve your cat's quality of life.
This is definitely a lot to take in, and I imagine it could be really skillful for cat owners to think about these more serious possibilities.
It can be overwhelming, but knowledge is power. The more we understand about these conditions, the better equipped we are to advocate for our cats.
Absolutely. Early detection is so important, and knowing what to look for can make a real difference. Before we move on, I want to point out that the article we're discussing does mention Blue Buffalo's True Solutions Blissful Belly Digestive Care product line.
I see you're trying to get me to endorse a specific brand.
Maybe just a little. But seriously, could you talk about specialized diets in general?
Sure.
And whether they can be helpful for cats with sensitive stomachs?
Of course, diet plays a significant role in a cat's digestive health, and for some cats with sensitive stomachs, a specialized diet can be really beneficial.
What makes these diets different from regular cat food?
They might contain easily digestible ingredients, or prebiotics and probiotics to support gut health. For example, some diets use hydrolyzed proteins, which are proteins that have been broken down into smaller pieces to make them easier to digest.
So it's about providing their digestive system with the building blocks it needs in a form that's easier to handle.
Exactly. But it's important to remember that not all cats with sensitive stomachs need a special diet. Sometimes simple changes to their regular food, like switching to a different protein source or reducing the number of treats, can be enough to resolve the problem. The best approach is to discuss your cat's individual needs with your veterinarian. They can help you determine if a specialized diet is necessary and guide you toward the best options.
That's great advice. We've covered a lot of ground in this first part.
We have.
From hairballs to IBD, and even the possibility of cancer. We've explored a wide range of potential causes of sensitive stomachs in cats.
It's a lot.
And we'll be right back with more insights and maybe even a few surprises.
Sounds good. So before we went to, I guess we didn't go anywhere. We were talking about all the things that can cause a sensitive stomach in cats.
We sure did. And it sounds like even something as seemingly harmless as a hairball can actually be a sign of a bigger problem.
Absolutely. That's why it's so important to be attuned to even the subtle signs our cats give us. They can't tell us what's wrong, so we have to be their detectives.
Speaking of detectives, I have a question I'm sure a lot of cat owners are wondering about. How do we know when our cat's digestive issues are serious enough to warrant a trip to the vet? I mean, my cat has the occasional hairball or upset stomach, but it usually passes.
That's a great question. It's important to remember that even healthy cats have the occasional digestive upset.
Right.
But there are definitely some red flags you should never ignore.
Okay, give us the warning signs.
If your cat is vomiting frequently, especially if they can't keep any food or water down, that's a sign to call your vet immediately. Same goes for if you notice blood in their vomit or diarrhea.
Got it. Vomiting blood, definitely bad news. What about changes in their appetite? My cat can be a bit picky, but how do I know if it's just a finicky phase or something more serious?
A sudden decrease in appetite, especially if it's accompanied by other symptoms like lethargy or weight loss, should always be checked out by a veterinarian.
That makes sense. Now, we talked about constipation earlier, but what about diarrhea? How long does it have to last before we should be worried?
Diarrhea that lasts for more than a day or two, especially if it's watery or contains blood or mucus, should be checked out by a vet. Persistent diarrhea can quickly lead to dehydration, which, as we discussed, can be dangerous.
It's amazing to me how much we underestimate the importance of water for their health.
It really is crucial for all bodily functions.
Yeah.
But getting back to your question.
Yeah.
It's always better to err on the side of caution when it comes to your cat's health. If you're unsure whether something is serious, it's always best to consult with your vet.
I love that advice. When in doubt, call the vet. So we've talked about the warning signs, but let's shift gears and talk about what we can do at home to support our cat's digestive health. Are there any simple changes we can make to their environment or routine that might make a difference?
Absolutely. One of the most impactful things you can do is provide your cat with a stress-free environment.
Easier said than done. Cats always seem to find something to stress about.
I hear you. But seriously, stress can have a huge impact on their digestive system.
All right.
Make sure they have a safe space where they can retreat if they feel overwhelmed, and try to maintain a consistent routine. Cats thrive on predictability, so sudden changes to their environment or schedule can be stressful.
That's interesting. So even something like rearranging the furniture could upset their tummy.
It's possible. Some cats are more sensitive to change than others.
Good to know. I try to be more mindful of that. What about playtime? Does that factor into digestive health at all?
Yes. Exercise is important for overall health, including digestion. Encourage your cat to play and stay active. This can help keep their digestive system working properly.
So less stress, more playtime.
Got it.
Any other tips?
Another simple but often overlooked tip is to make sure they're grooming regularly. We talked about hairballs earlier, and brushing your cat regularly can help minimize the amount of hair they ingest.
Right, because if we're not brushing them, they're just swallowing all that fur themselves.
Exactly. And speaking of things cats swallow, let's talk about their food. The quality of their diet plays a huge role in their digestive health. Feeding your cat a high-quality, balanced diet that's appropriate for their age and life stage is crucial.
No more table scraps.
Table scraps are generally not a good idea. Human food can be high in fat and spices that can upset a cat's stomach. Plus, some human foods are actually toxic to cats.
That's a good reminder. I think we all slip our cats a little something from the table now and then.
It's tempting, but it's best to resist.
Right.
And of course, always make sure they have access to fresh, clean water.
Absolutely. Dehydration is definitely something we want to avoid, especially for those sensitive tummies. Okay, so we've covered stress management, playtime grooming, and diet. It sounds like there's a lot we can do as responsible cat owners to support their digestive health.
There certainly is. And the best part is many of these things are simple changes that can make a big difference in your cat's overall well-being.
You know, it's fascinating how much we can learn from paying attention to our cats and really understanding their needs. It's like we're unlocking a whole new level of communication with them.
It really is. The more we learn, the better equipped we are to provide them with the care they deserve.
Well said. Before we move on, I want to circle back to something we touched on earlier, specialized diets. I know you're not endorsing any particular brand.
Right.
But I'm curious to hear more about how these specialized diets work and whether they're really worth the hype.
That's a great question, and it's one I get asked a lot. The truth is, there's no one-size-fits-all answer when it comes to specialized diets for cats. Some cats with sensitive stomachs genuinely benefit from diets that are formulated to be gentle on their digestive systems, while others do just fine on a regular diet with a few adjustments.
So what makes these specialized diets different?
Well, they might contain easily digestible ingredients like hydrolyzed proteins, which are proteins that have been broken down into smaller pieces to make them easier to absorb. They might also be lower in fat or fiber, which can be helpful for cats with certain digestive issues.
Okay.
Or they might include Prebiotics and probiotics to support a healthy balance of bacteria in the gut.
Prebiotics and probiotics. Those sound familiar. What are those exactly?
Prebiotics are essentially food for the good bacteria in the gut, while probiotics are live beneficial bacteria that can help restore balance to the gut flora.
So it's kind of like giving their digestive system a little extra support.
Precisely. Now, it's important to remember that not all cats with sensitive stomachs need a special diet. Sometimes simple changes to their regular food,
Right.
like switching to a different protein source or reducing the number of treats, can be enough to resolve the problem.
So it really comes down to figuring out what works best for the individual cat.
That's right. And that's where your veterinarian comes in. They can help you determine if a specialized diet is necessary and guide you toward the best options for your cat's specific needs.
That makes sense. I think we've covered a lot of ground in this part.